School teacher Laura Fogarty, who spoke to NECN, as did this other family member, Bunny Montero, who says the family did appreciate the big turnout at the memorial event.
When they see the students coming in, that touches them so much because they know how those students felt about Colleen.
Hundreds of mourners embraced each other and wiped away tears during the visitation. A funeral service for Ritzer is set for this morning. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average set to open at 15,570, coming off a 68-point gain to cap the week on Friday. International stock markets were mostly higher today. That's amid growing expectations that the Federal Reserve will not be reducing its bond buying program. More details at srnnews.com.
From the Patriot Voice News booth, here's the latest check of your local stories. The Presque Isle County Council on Aging asking taxpayers to help support its transportation program, that due to stagnant funding from one source and cutbacks from others. The Alpena News reports they're asking for voters to approve a .25 mil 5-year levy in November to operate and staff its fleet of blue buses. Mackinac City's ash trees are dying, and now city officials plan to ask the State Department of Natural Resources and their state representatives for help in replacing them. Since 2005, travelers to Michigan's UP have been asked to dispose of the firewood at disposal sites at the Welcome Station near Mackinac City. The Petoskey News Review reports that Mackinac City officials believe that's led to the spread of the Admiral ash borer throughout the downtown over the past 2 to 3 years. The city's now noticing its ash trees are dying. And MLive has put together a list of top places that have deer and car crashes in the state. Out of the 83 counties, St. Clair County is the highest per capita. Counties in our listening area with high numbers include Alcona at number 2, Presque Isle at number 6. Patriot Voice.
You are the only folks keeping the barbarians from the gate.
I got into the labor movement not because I wanted to negotiate wages. I got into the labor movement because I saw it as a vehicle to do massive social change to improve the lots of people.
Let's take these son of a out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell. I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Start of hour number 2 begins right now. Brian Sommerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers.
And I've had a guest come on the show with us this morning. I've reached out to a citizen who chose to step up, Brian, and get onto the field and provide a primary challenge to a sitting incumbent Republican senator. And I've reached out and asked Nick Sundquist to come on with us this morning. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. I wanted to have you on, Nick. I met you down at the meeting that was held at the Soaring Eagle this past Saturday called Take the Field. It was all the Tea Party Liberty folks from around the state of Michigan that came to Soaring Eagle to meet. And I was able to meet you and your campaign manager, and wanted to have you on the show because you've decided to pay your $100 fee and file your affidavit of identity to primary challenge a sitting Republican state senator down in your district there in the 34th. And just wanted to have you on and basically allow you an opportunity to tell our listening audience a little bit about your bio, your resume, and why you decided to get into running for politics.
I sure do. Thank you very much for having me on, and it was a pleasure to meet you at the powwow over there in Mount Pleasant the other day. I suppose, like many of your listeners, I got involved in politics. At some point, it occurred to me that the people on the other side of my television screen and radio couldn't actually hear me hollering at them. As far as politics go, I don't have a long biography. My hands are clean as far as politics goes. Mr. Hansen has an abysmal record. I think he scores a lofty 11% at the Mackinac Center's Tea Party scorecard. That's actually lower than any of the other senators. Now, that's weighted for fiscal issues. He's a pretty big spender when it comes to inviting foreign companies to come to Michigan in the alleged pursuit of jobs. And anybody that's looked at the record of the strategic fund knows that it's a huge waste, frankly.
Absolutely. One of the things that, of course, being that he is now running for re-election as a state senator, is he has a voting record. And why don't you talk about maybe just, some of the key bills or laws that he's voted for that you stood against and probably would have voted the other way had you been the state senator for your district?
I think probably the most important one for your listeners is the vote on the Medicaid expansion. He's one of the 8 Republicans that voted in favor of that recently, and I have to say that Medicaid expansion, this is Obamacare. This is how they're going to bring that to the state of Michigan, and we find ourselves embarrassingly signed up to all of our citizens are now subject to the individual mandate, and all of our employers are now subject to the employer mandate. What would have been better is the position that the Attorney General of Oklahoma has taken. He's suing the federal government to get them to apply the law the way it's written, which is that if the states don't opt in, the citizens aren't subject to any of the mandates. That would certainly be a better way to go. Senator Hansen, when he was in the House, introduced, I believe he co-sponsored the strategic fund, and that's just been an abysmal failure, along with anything else that the MEDC does. They're responsible for bringing the battery plant over here to West Michigan, over in the Holland area, giving taxpayer money to a company to come and set up shop. They never produced any batteries. That's your tax money at work. This isn't the business of government. The government exists to protect our rights against people that would take our money and do things with it that we wouldn't have done.
Right. Well, getting back to the Medicaid expansion, we made a pretty big breaking news story up here. My partner Brian, who's on with us this morning, attended a Republican women's event right after that Medicaid expansion vote, and basically made a statement to our Senator Howard Walker, who joined your senator there, Jeff Hansen, who voted for it. And Brian called them out that, they broke the Hessert rule. They passed it with all 12 Senate Democrats and a handful of a few weak Republicans. And our senator responded to Brian, "Screw you, dude." So that's what happened up here in northern Michigan. But in fact, your state senator Hansen was, in fact, like you said, one of the 8 Republicans that joined in with Walker and Casperson in our listening audience in voting for this thing. How do you think they are going to try to justify that vote out on the campaign trail now that you filed? You'll actually get to challenge him and debate him on this vote. How do you think he'll try to defend it in your district over there?
The Muskegon Chronicle wrote a little story about why he voted, and it's interesting to me that on the day the Supreme Court came out with a decision that it was constitutional, he made a statement that it was going to hurt Michigan businesses. The very next day, he voted to bring institute the exchanges in Michigan. And after that, nobody was able to get a clear response to him as to how he was going to vote in Michigan when the bill came up here in our Congress. And after the vote, he said it was simple. The 10,000 people in his district that were now going to get medical care, made that decision simple for him.
So he basically bought into supporting Obamacare, much like Governor Snyder did.
I don't know what motivates them other than the $820 billion that's supposed to be coming from the federal government in by way of subsidies for the HMO companies that are going to be administering the Medicaid program here in Michigan, and the hospital lobbies. The governor is fully aware that this is going to cost Michigan taxpayers money down the road. I think this thing phases in. The subsidies get limited each year, a little less and a little less and a little less. And so Governor Steiner has said that he's going to put some money away for the time when the subsidies don't exist anymore. Maine and New Mexico have attempted this sort of thing in the past, where they wanted to expand Medicaid to healthier individuals, and both of them had 4 times the number of people sign up than they anticipated. And we got, the estimate that I read is 470,000 able-bodied Michiganders are now going to be on the state's welfare rolls. That's their estimate. This thing is going to cost an awful lot of money. And a study that I read recently said that Medicaid patients are more likely to use emergency room services than people without any insurance at all. So the idea that we're going to save money because of less emergency room, the argument that the emergency room care is so much more expensive than if you go and see the doctor, is wrong. And with HMOs administering the program, they're in the business of making profits. They're not going to want their patients to go to the doctor. That's the other argument, that if they have a relationship with a primary care provider, they're not going to go to the emergency room and get more expensive care, and that they'll be somehow healthier than they otherwise would be.
Right.
And, that's the fallacious argument as well.
Going to take a break right now. Hold on right there, Nick. And we're going to continue on with our conversation with Nick Sundquist. He is running for state senate in this upcoming election. He will be primarying a sitting member in the Senate, so it will be a primary, and we'll have more with him when we come back. We are your Defending Fathers. Hey, welcome back to the program. Brian Sommerfield, Trucker Randy, your Defending Fathers. On the phone right now with Nick Sundquist. He is running for state senate. You can find out about his campaign and much more by going to Nick4Senate.com, Nick4Senate.com, and I will post that on your Defending Fathers as well, so you can look that up.
Hey, Nick, one of the things, besides this Medicaid expansion, you talked about Senator Hansen and his involvement in picking winners and losers, corporate, I call it cronyism, where they're going to give money to certain private businesses to expand and to do certain things, basically over other businesses. That is one of the major components of your website, where you talk about corporate welfare. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and how the current senator you're running against, how he's involved in it?
Well, to my way of thinking, the idea that the government is going to give your money and all the taxpayers' money to different corporations, so if they can come into Michigan to set up shop, and they're telling us that they're going to create jobs. Well, the thought occurs to me that if they can give your money to out-of-state companies to set up shop, they could just as easily lower the taxes and burden some rules and regulations so that Michigan companies that are already here can expand. I mean, the economics of it doesn't make sense. Look, I like Cabela's as much as the next guy. I think it's a wonderful place. You go and buy sporting goods, and they've got everything you could possibly need for hunting and fishing and camping, and it's a wonderful store. Up in your neck of the woods, you may be familiar with Jay's Sporting Goods.
Yep.
I bought something at Cabela's with a credit card, and for 4 or 5 years afterwards, twice a year, I get a 50-page glossy catalog. They can afford to send those out because they're not paying Michigan taxes. I bought something at Jay's Sporting Goods up in Clare. They never send me a glossy catalog, and my guess is the reason they don't is because they have to subsidize their competition. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And for a politician to pat themselves on the back for having recently brought the Cabela's over near Grand Rapids, I mean, that's a company, a well-managed company. They made $170 million in profit last year. They don't need the $15 million the state of Michigan gave them to come here.
Absolutely.
It's morally wrong, and it doesn't make economic sense. So why do it? That's my position on it. And Mr. Hansen, when he was in the House, proudly introduced the strategic fund in a letter to the Muskegon Chronicle, and how happy he was that we were going to start bringing jobs to Michigan through these efforts. And if you go to the Mackinac Center and take a look at what's going on with the strategic fund, I think you'll be really upset by their record. I mean, they don't even have anybody that's telling Congress. There are very few audits, and the ones that do come up are companies take the money and go bankrupt and leave.
Right.
They're giving money to I think they gave $1.5 million to some company to make environmentally friendly siding. The movie subsidies that everybody's so excited about. How does it make sense to give $40 million to Hollywood executives to make movies here? The best thing that's going to happen is you get a couple of part-time jobs. And
exactly.
then leave the state again.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, one of the things that you're going to have to do is try to get the incumbent senator to debate you. And in the event that he chooses simply not to, because he is the incumbent and maybe he's not really taking you as a serious threat, do you plan to get pretty aggressive on challenging him at public events that you guys do get to? And if not, are you going to hold him accountable for not showing up at debates that are set up for you guys?
To the best of my ability, that's our intention. And I'm happy to meet Mr. Hansen anywhere at any time. I don't have any trouble at all. In fact, I recently spoke at the Oceana County Tea Party meeting and talked to the chairman of that group, and he invited me to come out and speak at their event. And as we discussed it, he said, "Well, maybe I'll have Mr. Hansen on afterwards, and then try and arrange a forum where you both can meet and discuss these issues." And I had an opportunity to meet him after I spoke, and ask him how his contact with Mr. Hansen went, and he said that he declined to come out and visit with the group, even without me there.
Just one-on-one, he was afraid to come and talk to him?
Yeah, he recently
Unbelievable.
He recently announced that he didn't want to come to the Muskegon County GOP meetings because he was afraid that people might question his record. Or be mean to him. I'm not sure what the exact quote was, but
right.
I suspect strongly that it's going to be difficult to get him to come out to an event, and so what we're going to need to do is get his record in the hands of the primary voters. And listen, if I can make a plea to your audience, there are people in different activist groups around the state that made an implicit promise to Mr. Hansen that if he voted for the Medicaid expansion, he'd be removed from office. And I sure would like to make good on that promise. And if your listeners don't have a good candidate to support, we sure can use the help. You can send contributions through the website. There's an address there, and I heard one of the candidates at the powwow cleverly say that prayers and contributions can cross county lines, and so we can use an awful lot of those. We're looking at about 16,000 primary voters that we'd like to get his record, like those people to be aware of his record, before they vote in August. And it's going to be a big job, but we've got a small and growing army of volunteers ready to get some of the literature to those voters, and we're in process of mapping out where they live right now. So we have a winnable campaign here, and Mr. Hansen should be removed from office. Medicaid expansion is just awful. Corporate welfare is
a lot of the other stuff he
bad.
supported. Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to close this up with again your website. Brian mentioned it at the top of the hour. nickforsenate.com. That's Nick, N-I-C-K, the number 4, Senate.com. And it'll be Nick Sundquist's website there. You can donate right online. You've got all your information if people want to volunteer to help you out. Like you say, you'll take prayers and donations from across the state. Hopefully you can primary challenge and win, and let's prove to the people of Michigan that a regular citizen can take out a Republican rhino.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And I think that it'll send a strong message to the other Republicans up there in Lansing that it's about time they start listening to the constituents instead of the lobbyists.